Hello, everyone. Welcome to Time. I hope all of you are doing well. I know it's a tough time, but please remember these are the tough times that bring up challenges, and these challenges make us tough, make us innovative, and make us creative. So, with this message, I'm going to start grammar. I hope all of us here must have learned grammar during a school time. Yeah? And to some extent, we are actually confident about this topic. But how does this topic play out in the upcoming exams that you're going to give? To put it succinctly, there would be at least 5 questions from this particular area. Now, in the case of vocabulary, you might not know the meaning of the words. In the case of reading comprehension, you might actually end up taking a lot of time to understand the passage. But if you know the rules of grammar, you can get very good marks in very little time. Isn't that fantastic? So, what I would say is that grammar is the mathematics of the verbal ability section. So, come with me and we'll learn grammar in a fantastic way. So, to begin with, I'm going to start with the simplest thing about grammar, which is what is a sentence? How will you define a sentence? For example, now if I write, Rahul is a good boy. And then if I say, Rahul kicked the ball. So both of these are sentences? Yeah? Okay. Now, what is Rahul in this sentence? Some of you might say that this is the subject of the sentences, which is absolutely correct. But how does Rahul play out in both the sentences? In the first case, if you see, we are talking about Rahul. In the second case, if you see, we are saying that Rahul has done certain work. He has done certain actions, right? So, how do we define a subject? Subject is that part of the sentence which is either talked about or which does the work. Now, if you look at both the sentences, the sentence minus subject, the sentence minus your subject then becomes your predicate. Right? So that is what a predicate is. Now, what about ball? Now, in the second sentence, you can see that work is being done on the ball, that Rahul kicked the ball. So, ball here becomes my object. So, ball here becomes my object. But then, what about boy? Is any work being done on boy? No. So, boy here is not my object. So, boy here is not my object. Now, having gone through the basics, now let's start with nouns. Okay. Now, what are nouns? I know. A definition that must be going in your mind is noun is the name of a person, place, or thing. That definition is correct, but does that definition contain the entirety of what noun is? For example, the words like nationalism, patriotism, that can also be a noun, right? So, to put it simply, noun or nouns is a naming word. It is a naming word. Yeah? Okay. Now, what about proper noun? What is a proper noun? Can you recall the name of your friends? Sanjay, Rakesh, Ravi, Rahul, Priya, Jagriti, Sukriti. You name it. All of these are proper nouns. But how do I define a proper noun? Think. For example, a lot of students are sitting in a class, and if I say, Pankaj, can you come up, please? So, what am I doing when I'm calling a student Pankaj? Am I referring to somebody who's particular or specific? I hope not. So, what am I doing in this case? So, a proper noun helps us identify a noun. So what does a proper noun do? It helps us identify a noun. Okay. Now let's look at these sentences. For example, if I'm saying Gandhiji is revered even today. Then if I'm saying Martin Luther King is considered to be the Gandhi of America. And now if I say a Pankaj came to see me today. A Pankaj came to see me today. Can you identify the proper nouns in these sentences? For example, in the first one, Gandhiji is revered even today. Gandhiji then becomes your proper noun. Correct? What about the second sentence? Martin Luther King is a proper noun. So Martin Luther King is your proper noun. But what about Gandhi? Is it a proper noun? Or do you think this sentence is wrong? What are the two rules associated with a proper noun? A, it always begins with a capital letter, and we usually do not use articles before it. So do you think Gandhi here is a proper noun? What about America? America is a proper noun, right? So America is your proper noun. Now let's look at the third sentence. It is not a dot Pankaj. A here is an article. So I'm saying a Pankaj. A Pankaj came to see me today. Do you think this sentence is right or wrong? So before I explain this further, let's talk about what a common noun is. What a common noun is. Can you think some examples of common noun? Yes, you're right. A boy, a girl, a fan, a table, a chair. These are all common nouns. But how do I define them? To put it simply, a common noun is a name given to every member of a class or kind. So what is a common noun? It is a name given to every member of a class or kind. It is not collective noun. Don't get confused with that. We're going to come to collective noun in a short while. So there are certain qualities in a boy that separates him from a girl. Yeah? So every member of this class boy is given a name, which is a boy. Right? Now if you tell a 4-year-old kid that a cat is a 4-legged animal, so what will the kid say? Even a dog is a 4-legged animal? So you have to talk about certain other differentiating qualities. Similarly, a table is different from a chair. So these are two different classes. So here the key word is class or kind. Right? But what if I just call them non-living things? Is there any difference between a table and a chair? What if I just call them living things? Then there is no difference between a boy or a girl or a cat or a dog. So it's all about choosing certain qualities and defining a class or a kind, and then we call each of the members of that class or kind by a certain name. That name is a common noun. Now let's say some of my friends, they believe in peace and non-violence. So with whom is peace and non-violence associated with? Yes, you're right. It's Gandhiji, right? So can I call my friend Gandhi now? Yes, just like we used to call Sachin as Bradman. Didn't we used to say, right? Do you remember that Sachin is considered to be the Gandhi? Sachin is considered to be the Bradman of India, right? And today we also say that Virat Kohli is considered to be the Sachin of Team India. So in both the references, we are using Sachin and Bradman as common nouns, right? Similarly here, Gandhi is being used as a common noun which has been derived from a proper noun. So it is not a proper noun. Yes, you heard it right. Gandhi here is used as a common noun and not as a proper noun. And therefore, we are right in using the before Gandhi. Similarly here, now before I discuss the third sentence, now just imagine if somebody comes to your house and says, my name is Pankaj and I wish to meet your father. You don't know which Pankaj is this. He could be any of the Pankajas in this country, right? So you will go and tell your father, a Pankaj has come to see you. Right? Now when your father comes out and is able to identify which Pankaj is this, then Pankaj will become a proper noun. So here, again, Pankaj is being used as a common noun, and we are referring to strangers. We are using Pankaj in the sense of vagueness. Right? So again, Pankaj here is a common noun. Okay, I hope you've understood till here. Let's move further. Now, what is a collective noun? It's a name given to a group or collection. Absolutely right. So, collective noun is a name given to a group or a collection. So, words like jury, class, team, these are all collective nouns. Now, let's look at these two sentences. Now, if I'm saying the class is or are going to enter the room, what would be in this case? Yes, you're right. It is the class is going to enter the room. So this collective noun stands for the entire group and behaves like one person. So you've got it right. But now look at this sentence. Now if I'm saying the class is or are going to take its or their seats. Now, would it be is here? Think carefully. Is it going to be is? No. Here we would have are. Why will we have are? Now, imagine the class is going to take its seat. How can the entire class fit into one particular seat? So now the focus shifts towards individual members of the group. So even though I'm using a collective noun, I'll have to follow it up with a plural verb, right? And it would be followed with a plural pronoun as well, right? So here, this class is being represented as collective, personal. Why am I using the word personal? Because I'm referring or I'm focusing on individual members of the group, while class here is collective, impersonal. Because I'm treating the entire class as a whole and not individually. Right? So we can use plural verbs with collective nouns. Let's go ahead. Okay. Another simple thing. What are countable nouns? And what are uncountable nouns? Yeah, I can see you smiling. Absolutely right. So the countable nouns are the ones which we can count, and uncountable nouns are the ones which we cannot count, or which are at least designated as something that we cannot count. For example, rice. We can count the grains, but when we buy rice, we usually weigh it. So, with countable nouns, we can use singular or plural verbs, but with uncountable nouns, we always use singular verbs. Please remember that, right? We always use singular verbs, right? Another thing with uncountable nouns is we usually do not use articles with it, right? But that is something we are going to come to in a short while. Okay, now can we have plural cases of uncountable nouns? In certain cases, we can. For example, if I'm saying, she is known for her kindnesses, this sentence is not wrong. She's known for her kindness if I'm talking about one act of kindness. But if I'm saying she is known for her kindnesses, it could be multiple kinds of kindnesses that she has actually been showing to the people around, right? So if I'm using the uncountable noun in a plural form, then I'm focusing on the variety or the kinds of that uncountable noun, right? So for now, at least remember this, that we always use singular verbs with uncountable nouns until and unless we're talking about its variety or varieties. And with countable nouns, we can use is or are. Singular or plural depends on the count. Okay, now let's move ahead. Now, what are abstract nouns? Abstract? Yes, things which are intangible. So usually, abstract noun refers to those nouns which are intangible, which actually denote things like qualities, like concepts, like ideas, like beliefs. So these are abstract nouns. Yes. But then, what is the difference between the words beautiful and beauty? Don't both of them denote the idea or the concept of beauty? Yes, both of them denote. But then the word beautiful does an extra job as compared to the word beauty. What does beautiful do? It actually describes a noun or a pronoun. But beauty does not describe a noun or a pronoun. Right? So abstract nouns, they only denote the concept of intangible nouns, while the word beautiful or adjectives can do some other actions as well. Now let's look at this one. Now we say beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder. So why do we say beauty lies? Why do we use a singular verb? Because abstract nouns are considered to be uncountable nouns. They're considered to be uncountable nouns. Now look at the sentence. Now if I'm saying she is a beauty. Now do you think this sentence is correct? She is a beauty. What is beauty in this case? Is this an abstract noun? Now, if it is an abstract noun, then it is going to be an uncountable noun. And if it is an uncountable noun, then we cannot use articles before it. Then what is beauty in this case? I know some of you have guessed it right. So beauty here is actually a common noun. So of all the beauties in the world, she is one of them. So please remember, everything in English is all about usage. So if you use beauty as an abstract noun, then it is an abstract noun. If you use it as a common noun, it can be a common noun as well. Yeah? Okay, let's move ahead. Now let's talk about gender. How many genders are there in the English language? 1, 2, 3, many. Can you name the genders, please? Okay, let's work with me. So the 3 genders that we have in the English language are masculine, then we have feminine, and then the third gender we have is neuter gender. It is neuter, it's not neutral, it's neuter gender. So masculine is used for males or those who consider themselves as males. Feminine is used for females or those who consider them as females, right? And neuter is used when we are not specifying the gender or for non-living things. So we use it for non-living things or where the gender is not specified, right? For example, if I'm saying the child has broken its toy, the baby has broken its toy. So here we are not referring to the gender of child or baby, right? Now if I'm saying the dog has bit its tail, I'm not referring to the gender of the dog in this particular case, right? But if you look at certain poetic expressions, for example, we say the moon has hid her face behind the clouds. And we say the sun sheds his beams upon us. So, what is sun and moon in this case? They're non living things, right? And yet, I'm using gender. I'm using gender in this case. Why am I using gender? Because I'm personifying the non living things. So, if you personify or you use personification to describe a non living thing, then you can use gender. So, we use feminine gender if something represents grace, beauty, or gentleness. ठीक है ना? And we use masculine gender if something represents power, destruction, or for that matter, death. But what about death? What is death in Hindi? Maut. Hindi mein maut kya hai? I hope you must be listening to shairis and dialogues in the movies. Let me just recite one. For example, मौत को देखा तो नहीं पर वो बहुत खूबसूरत होगी. कमबख्त जो भी उससे मिलता है जीना छोड़ देता है. Right? But the people who were creating the rules of English language, they did not go through Hindi, right? So whatever is there in Hindi belongs to Hindi, or in any other language. Whatever there is in English belongs to English. Please do not mix the rules of grammar of different languages, right? In English, death is masculine, period. In English, moon is feminine. We do not have Chandamama in the English language, right? So that's the thing. Okay. Most of the rules you already know about creating feminine from masculine, or when you're talking about the feminine gender of something which is masculine. For example, father is to mother, grandfather is to grandmother, and so on and so forth. I'll just talk about one particular rule. We sometimes add these suffixes like s, ein, trix, or a when it comes to creating the feminine gender. So prince, we drop the E and add S, princess. Hero will become heroine. Sultan will become sultana. And if I talk about the word testator, what would be the feminine of this word? It would be testatrix. Testatrix, right? So that's the feminine of the word testator. Just a quick question. What is the feminine of the word Zar? Is it Zara? No, it's not a clothing brand. It is actually Zarina. So please do not get confused with this. So the feminine of Zar is Zarina. We've taken it right from the Russian language. Okay, now let's go ahead. Now we are going to talk about numbers, or the rules that govern singularity and plurality. Okay. To put it simply, if you don't understand anything, just add S. Table will become tables, fan will become fans. The second rule says, if a word ends in S, SH, CH, or X, then what do? We add ES. So class will become classes, brush will become brushes, branch will become branches, box will become boxes. Right? Now look at these words. Boy, baby, lady, monkey. What will be the plural of these words? So boy will be boys. Absolutely right. Baby, are we going to add S? No, it's going to be babies. Lady will be ladies. Monkey will be monkey. IS or S? It's going to be only S. Can you identify the rule? Yes, you've got it right. That if a word ends in Y and if it is preceded by a vowel, then we add S. And if a word ends in Y and if it is preceded by a consonant, then we change Y into IES. Yeah? So that is what it is. Baby will then become babies. Okay, let's move ahead. Now, if a word ends in F or FE, then we change it into VES, right? So thief will become thieves, right? Knife will become knives. There are certain exceptions to this rule. For example, words like dwarf, scarf, wharf, or hoof. These words can take S as well as VES. So hoofs is also correct, and hoofs with an S, that is also correct. Now if I talk about words like chief, gulf, safe, or for that matter proof, or even roof, these words will take only S. So please remember this. Let's move further. Now what about words that end in O? So what do? We add ES. So mango will become mangoes, hero will become heroes. Now here too we have certain exceptions like solo, kilo, patho, dynamo. So these words will take S, not ES. Let's move further. So these are certain simple words that we have. Now let's look at another rule. Now, if you look at words like tooth, mouse, woman, louse, right? So how do we create the plural of these words? Let's add one more example to it. Goose. So tooth will become teeth. Mouse will become mice. Woman will become women. Louse will become lice. This is more familiar to us. We don't know the singular of lice actually. Goose will become geese. Yeah? So this is how we create plural in certain cases by changing the vowels of the nouns. Yeah? Okay. Let's move further. Now look at these words. Criterion, focus, locus, phenomenon. Now these are certain foreign words that have been included in the English language, and they have some specific rules. So criterion, the singular will become criteria. Focus will become foci. Locus will become loci. Phenomenon will become phenomena. Right? Okay. Now in certain cases, we add en. Child will become children. Okay, that R is coming, that's fine. Ox will become oxen. Right? So this is another rule. So these were some of the simpler rules. Now let's get into something more interesting. Now look at these words. Sheep, deer, swine, series, species, aircraft, spacecraft. What would be the plural of these words? Yes, you got it right. You got it right. They remain the same in singular and plural. So one sheep, 5 sheep. They're not going to change, right? But what about fish? What's going to be the plural of fish? Is it going to be fish or is it going to be fishes? Both are actually correct. Now, for example, in a pond, there are a lot of fish. There's only one variety of fish. So we'll say there are many fish in the pond. But if you're talking about an ocean, right? So we'll say there are many fishes in the ocean. Right? So there are many fishes in the ocean. Therefore, if I'm talking about individual varieties like cod, salmon, or what is found in Himachal, which is trout, so individual varieties of fish will remain the same in singular and plural. Now what about the words like pair, dozen, thousand, or for that matter, 100, or for that matter, score? One score is 20. Please remember that. Can we have the plural form of these words? In certain cases we can, in certain cases we cannot. So in what cases we will not have the plural form? If we are using a cardinal adjective before them. What is a cardinal adjective? The adjectives which show numbers, like 6 pair, 1 pair. In this case, the words would remain the same in singular and plural. But if I'm not using the cardinal adjectives, we can create plural versions of these words. Let's move further. Okay. Now, look at these words. For example, if I'm talking about scissors, spectacles, pants, trousers, or pincers. Now, these words, they're always plural because they come in pairs. We have spectacles, we also have a monocle. Earlier, people used to read with one particular glass. Since these always come in pairs, so we should always consider them as plural. So where is my trouser is wrong, where is my trousers is wrong, where are my trousers is correct. So please remember this. Now we have words like names of certain subjects like physics or electronics, or name of certain games like billiards, or name of certain diseases like rickets, mumps, measles, or words like news. Now these words, they end in S, but they are actually singular. They are not plural, so please do not get confused. So these are certain rules with them, associated with them. Okay, now let's move further. Now, what about these words? Commander-in-chief or sister-in-law. Now these are compound nouns because they have been created after joining 2 or more words. What would be the plural of commander-in-chief? Is it going to be commander-in-chiefs, or is it going to be commanders-in-chief? You guessed it right. We make the principal word as plural, commanders-in-chief and sisters-in-law. What about words like teaspoon full or handful? Is it going to be hands full or handfuls? What is going to be the case? Now they look like compound nouns, but they are actually one singular word. So we should just be adding S to them at the end. Teaspoonfuls and handfuls. Yeah? You got that right? Okay. What about letters and digits? For example, there are a lot of E's in his name. So how do we create the plural form of E? We add apostrophe S. What would be the plural form of 5? We add apostrophe S. So there are many E's in his name. There are many 5s in his phone number. Okay. Let's move ahead. Now let's talk about cases. And in cases, we are going to talk about possessive case. Possessive cases. So how do we create possessive cases? We use apostrophe or apostrophe S. Right? Now try and create the possessive case of these nouns. Enemy, camp, Alice, doll, boys, room, women, house, then we have das, car, novel, page, India, heroes. Can you create the possessive cases in these nouns? So it's going to be enemy apostrophe or apostrophe S. We use apostrophe S. What about Alice? Now this is a proper noun. Here apostrophe and apostrophe S. Both are correct. Earlier, we used to use only apostrophe, but in the modern day parlance, with proper nouns, it's okay to use apostrophe S as well. What about boys? It's apostrophe. What about women? It's apostrophe S. Can you identify any rules here? What about das? It's going to be apostrophe and apostrophe S again. Both are correct. So it's not about singularity or plurality. It's all about the sound at the end. And it's not an S sound. It is known as hissing sound. For example, an S sound can be brush, sh as well. But then with brush, we add ES. But if you're talking about hissing sound, it's hissing. So Alice, boys. So that's an hissing sound. That's a hissing sound, right? What about novel? Would I write novel's page? No, that would be wrong. In this case, we cannot create a possessive case. Why? Because for non-living things, we do not create a possessive case. So we'll not have novel's page. We'll not have novel's page. We'll say page of the novel, right? But what about India? We do say India's heroes, right? Though India here is a non-living thing. But then, again, we are personifying it. We are personifying as a motherland, our mother. So if we personify, we can use possessive case and we can use gender as well. So it's going to be India's heroes. India's heroes, right? So you got that right. Okay. Let's move ahead. Now look at these words. King of Bhutan, palace. Right. John and Jacob, garage. Commander in chief, car. And John and Mary, house. So what about King of Bhutan? Please remember the apostrophe S is always going to come at the end. Now if two friends, have started a garage, so again here the nouns are related. So the apostrophe S will only come at the end. In a compound noun, whether the compound noun is plural or singular, the apostrophe S will come at the end. John and Mary. Now here these two are couple. These two are actually a couple. So if people are married, then the two nouns are related. So we'll use apostrophe S only at the end. But if you're using the two nouns separately, for example, if I'm saying John and Alice poems. Now poems, please remember, is an individualistic effort. So here we are talking about individual cases. So we'll say John's and Alice or Alice's. Let's use the traditional form. Alice, poems. Right. Now what about this one? Tagore, the poet, city. What will we say in this particular case? So we'll say Tagore, the poets. So apostrophe S will come at the end. Please remember, this poet is a word that is describing Tagore. So poet is my apposition case of a noun. Now these apposition cases are always separated by two commas and they are preceded by the. Please remember this. So we'll say Tagore, the poet's city. Okay, let's move ahead.